Today's topic, a live stream collaboration about board game orientation. Welcome to TABLEscraps, short discussions about board, card, and tabletop gaming, submitted by the viewing audience and discussed with the viewing audience. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to another episode of TABLEscraps, the show where I discuss a topic about board, card, and tabletop gaming with the live streaming chat. And today, we're going to do a little bit of an experiment here, because today I am going to present a brand new segment type called Convince Me. I am going to present a topic that I have been struggling with, I am on the fence about, and I cannot come to a decision about, so I am calling on you, all of you viewers, to convince me on the following subject. I adhere to the school of storing my board games on my shelf horizontally. For example, if this was a game upon my board game shelf, I would put it on my shelf, flat-wise, horizontally. That's how I store my games. Of course, the other train of thought is to store games vertically, like that, straight up and down. Now, I will admit, I think it looks pretty cool to see board games on their side like that on the shelf. But I usually store them horizontally just for practicality reasons. But lately, I have been pondering, boy, I do like the way vertically stored games look. Should I change my shelves? Should I switch from being a horizontaler to being a verticaler? And I just can't decide. So I decided, let me turn to my friends in the YouTube chat and have them convince me of what I should do. So this is your chance, guys. Convince me which orientation is the best for my own collection, and perhaps I'll dabble in making a change. Accent Troll is going to start us off by convincing me with this statement. Upside down on a glass table with sticky tack on the pieces. That's not better. Now I have a new problem. I have a third option to choose from. Thank you, Accent Troll. We're going to put that suggestion in the maybe pile. And we're going to continue on with Christopher, who says, if vertical makes the components a jumbled mess, definitely do not do that for the game. Jumbled components is a real concern of mine. And I don't think I'm capable of going partially vertical, partially horizontal, depending on the components inside. So, I got to commit one way or the other. I am counting your post as one vote towards horizontal. Peter says the better question is, can the game actually be stored vertically without scrambling all the pieces? Lords of Waterdeep can't without an insert. That's absolutely true. That goes right back to the consistency of the orientation. However, I'm going to counterpoint you there, Peter. I'm going to counterpoint you in that everyone else does it. I mean, if you watch other people's board game videos, there's so many people that put their collections vertically. So it's got to work for, they're putting all their games regardless of what components are in that box or what type of insert is in there. So other people are risking it and succeeding. What are they doing differently? Or do they just, fly gums to the wind, which is now an expression. Thank you very much. Kabuki Kid says, horizontally makes sense. Yeah, I agree. That's how I store almost everything too. Keeps boards from warping and pieces from dumping around in inserts. Now I can understand the pieces dumping around in the box, but really warping, I actually hadn't thought of that. Actually, is there a difference in vertical versus horizontal and actually the boards warping or potentially warping when they're vertically stored? I had not thought of that. And that's a really good point. Trevin says, vertical means you can pull out any game without wrestling a stack. No digging. Oh, see, Kabuki, I was almost going to end the episode right there with Kabuki's mention of board warping, because that's a pretty big deal. But see, now Trevin comes in with a counterpoint of not having to dig out games and just being able to pull them out like a book. And people will go, ooh, when you pull out that game, that was slick and smooth. And people will be impressed and they'll come over more. And sometimes they'll, leave me $1. And I like that idea. And all because they were stored vertically. That's a pretty hard perk to pass up. But let's see if Peter can convince me otherwise. Vertical would probably be better for the boxes, but scrambling the contents likely makes it not worth it. Oh, Peter, your statement has both sides of the argument built right into it in one. So that I'm just as confused now as I was. So I'm sad again. So I'm going to turn to Steven to see if he can solve this conundrum. Steven says, my shelves don't allow me to do vertical. Otherwise I would. Sure, it makes jumbled components, but laying flat and stacking seems to dish the boxes, which I'm assuming you meant dent the boxes. Hey, quit dishing my boxes. I don't know where I was going with that. So, Steven, you say you would do vertical if you could, but you actually have a lack of space. Oh, see, now I almost feel like I should switch to vertical just to be an advocate for Steven. So, I'm doing this for Steven and putting him up vertically. I think Steven would appreciate that. But do I really care enough about Steven's feelings to make that sacrifice for him? I don't think so, but I might. Let's continue on and see if I can be swayed. Christopher says, point against. Changing requires you to work. Leaving it alone can be done while sipping tea and playing a game. You make an excellent point, Christopher. In fact, I'm going to take this a step further. And you know what? If I don't play any of the games on my shelf and I do something else and I just let them sit there without playing them, then I don't have to do the work of even learning the game and playing it and bringing it out and setting it up at all. I think that you have just unraveled a brand new way to appreciate this hobby in not doing the hobby. So I'm intrigued and also a little frightened. Action Troll says it just depends on shelf space, however you can fit the most games. Well, I would agree with that, except for my previous experiment. Hold on one moment. Here's the problem with that line of thinking, Action Troll. My first experiment was just to take all the game boxes and dump them out into a big box. I got like 34 games in here. No boxes anymore, just all the parts dumped in this box. And I can fit a lot more games on the shelf now. Sure, Action Troll, but I don't know if I'm really ever going to be able to play any of these ever again. So I'm considering that as point against. Kabuki Kid says, mixing vertical and horizontal could be an artistic move, though. I was afraid someone would mention the possibility of how it would be kind of a neat design choice. Boy, but then I'd have to figure out which ones to put vertical, which ones to put horizontal. And, Trevin says, big box games get a vertical exception. Coffin box Risk can't be done on its side. Okay, then we have the limitations of the games themselves. That's true. Now, I have considered getting some sort of electromagnetic railing system in order to make the games float on an electromagnetic field. That way, they're not stacked vertically or horizontally. They could just rotate in space. However, I don't think that's possible to do. And I now regret even bringing it up. Failroad Express helps me out by saying, my shelf really doesn't support vertical, but even if it did, I'd still stack them. I don't want my neatly organized components to get jumbled. Or jumbled, like I jumbled the word jumbled there for you, Failroad. See what I did? That wasn't even on purpose. Here we have the anti-Steven, apparently, because Failroad Express can't stack vertical either, but even if he could, wouldn't. I fear if you guys ever met at a convention, you guys would either like cancel each other out and no longer exist, or there would be some sort of like almost, West Side Story big fight in the convention hall on team could and couldn't stack vertical. So I think it's best that we just move on to the next comment before you guys start a rumble. Halo says, stay horizontal. It's the content that has to remain beautiful in the long run. Eventually, you want your game to look beautiful on the table and not dented and bented. That is true. It's all about the stuff inside the box, isn't it? The orientation of the box itself on the shelf is just aesthetic. It's not what's important. You know what, Halo? I think you make a really good point, and I think you've actually calmed me down and brought me down off this podium a little bit. Trevin adds to my conundrum by saying, your pieces stay in place if you bag them. $1 per 300 bags is not cost prohibitive. It also speeds up setup time. Okay, so now I could bag the components in the box. And to be honest, you guys know I'm a bag enthusiast, and I bag most of my components anyway. I get rid of the insert and bag them. So confession, yeah, they're already prepped to be stacked vertically if I wanted to, because they're already mostly pre-bagged. So Trevin, you've added another wrinkle there. You've actually pushed me towards the vertical side a little bit there, and it's a little scary. David joins us to say, I use vertical. Ooh, a verticalist. As I have yet to come up with a better method. I organize my games on where they fit best. Makes it easier to identify where to return them, especially when I take 8 to 10 of them with me. Oh, okay. David, since you are a verticalist, I have a question for you. Now, when I take a game off of the shelf as they are currently stacked horizontally, I can very easily see which shelf it goes back onto because whoop, there's a nice gap on the top of that spot of that shelf. Now, vertically, if stacking vertically is anything like books, and they are rectangular, so I assume that board games are exactly like books in every way, when you take a game vertically out, the other vertical games are likely to move or bend and kind of fill in that gap, making it more difficult to see where the game went, and also you got to push the other games aside to get the other one to fit back in. Is that a problem, an issue, a life-changing event that you feel that you have to deal with as a verticalist? Or is it a non-issue and it's being blown out of proportion by your current host? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm interested to see if you have the same problems that I have with books flipping and flopping and getting harder to get in and out. And I can't believe I'm actually serious that I am curious about that. Halo also mentions, I have the best solution. Buy two of the same game and make one side of the room horizontal and one vertical. Wow, that's a fantastic idea that I bet my wife would just love. I'm going to include this comment from Steven because it just clarifies my previous error. Steven says, I call it dishing as the center of the box is lower and it almost forms like a dish. So thank you for the clarification there, Steven, because it definitely looks like there's something wrong with your spell check because it consistently keeps changing dented to dishing. So you might want to get your computer looked at there. Kabuki Kid says, boxes won't dish unless you stack them far too high or with severely different box sizes. Just stay uniform. I like that comment, not because it provides really good advice, but because it is showing me that there's this whole other world of box stacking vocabulary I wasn't even aware of. I had no idea before today that the term dishing was an actual real thing. And I feel the greater for it. So thank you guys for educating me on that nuance of board stacking design. That's how I spent my day today, huh? Okay. Peter mentions, bag the contents elsewhere, store in a trunk, store the boxes vertically so they look cool for shelfies. Now that's an underhanded, awesome, wonderful scheme. I love it. The old bait and switch. It's like when you go to a store or something and they have boxes of software or movies and you pick it up and you go, woo, I'm real strong because you pick it up and it's an empty box and it's because they take the stuff out. I could be just like one of those stores that actually sells empty boxes. All I got to do then is figure out how to organize all of my trunks full of components. Mav Weirdo joins us to say, I am a both vertical and horizontal shelver depending on the game. Foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of a little mind. My little hobgoblin mind is blown. Mav Weirdo, you have got to be, I think, the first person I have ever encountered, or at least has bothered to mention it, that they are a dual orientation gamer. I've never encountered anyone who is able to ambidextrously sort their games, for lack of a better word and using the incorrect definition of ambidextrously. You give me hope. And I realize you're not just a figment of my imagination. Our established relationship through these episodes gives me confidence that vertical and horizontal simultaneous shelving is a practical potential solution to my problem. Okay, I think I'm convinced that I'm just as confused now as I was before, but I'm confused in a slightly different way about new things. So I think that's progress in a way. So thank you to everyone who has taken the time to indulge me and convince me of whether I should stack my games horizontally or vertically. And if you have an opinion on this matter, and why wouldn't you? I am welcoming you to continue this conversation in the comments below, because if it's one thing I know about people on YouTube in the comments section, you gotta have an opinion about this. So let me know. And in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for watching and participating, because episodes like this are made possible by viewers just like you who have been supporting Pair of Dice Paradise's Pod Pledge fundraiser. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel. Every little bit does help and is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. Until the next time we get a chance to chat together, I've been Chaz Marler, who, along with the live streaming YouTube chat window, have been serving up some table scraps. Thanks. I'll talk to you again soon. Board game orientation. It's not the game's choice. They're made that way. Bravo, David. Bravo. Or you know a guy named Mr. Dish who comes over and rearranges your boxes when you lay them flat and like reorients them vertically. So I'm intrigued and also a little frightened and damp. Christopher Sickman says, now you're talking crazy talk. No, this is crazy talk. Ubu Bombay Banana Filter Face. That is crazy talk.